Hello everyone, my name is Mathias and today I'm going to be presenting on my ENV 408 internship in Japan. So to start off, I'd like to talk a little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I've always had an interest in the outdoors and the environment. And so that led me to studying environmental science here in my hometown at NAU. Alongside that, I've always had an interest in Japanese history and culture, and so that led to my future study abroad in Japan. One thing to note is that I love plants a lot, and although I'm not super great at growing plants, I love to research them and all things to do with them. And just to answer the most asked question I've gotten since coming back from Japan, yes, I did eat ramen while I was in Japan, and it was the best bowl of ramen I've ever had in my life. As you can see it right there, it was a ramen shop I frequented, and that bowl of ramen only cost me $6. So please, please, please go if you get the chance. Okay, so just a little bit about the program that I did. It's called the Interdisciplinary Global Studies Program at NAU. And what this is a 5-year program with 2 majors. For me, it was environmental science and Japanese. So with those 2 majors, I also end up doing an internship in my host country of Japan. Their Instagram page is right there, but if you're a freshman or a sophomore, definitely check this out if you have any interest in study abroad. So leading up to my study abroad, there were 3 years before I actually went where I was studying Japanese alongside my environmental science classes. And so this was very rigorous. I was taking anywhere from 16 to 20 credits per semester. And it's been ongoing throughout my entire school life. And I actually chose this program because of my interest in Japanese culture. I thought it would be great to be able to go to Japan and sort of experience a life so different from Flagstaff, where I have spent most of my life. So after getting my visa, passports, and applications, which was also a very tedious process, I ended up deciding on Kyushu, the southernmost island of the 4 large islands of Japan, and I went to Fukuoka or Kyushu University, which is one of the 13 national universities of Japan. So a little bit about Fukuoka is that the environment there is a temperate evergreen broadleaf forest. And so that sort of drew me in again because I wanted to get out of Flagstaff and see an environment different from my own. Semester 1, I took a lot of classes, a lot of Japanese classes, still working on that second language development. But I also tried to find an internship this semester. It was a little bit challenging at first. The student support, it was hard to communicate again, just with the Japanese language barrier. However, I did find a forest ecosystem management lab at the university forest that I got to tour and see with them. And that was really cool, but due to its distance from campus, I was unable to make that work. And so in the second semester, excuse me, in the second semester, I actually found an internship in the plant production physiology lab at Kyushu University. And so this was under this guy right here, Agare Sensei. And so he does a lot of work with genetically modified plant organisms and working on the effects of climate change on plants and how we can adapt plants to these changes. That being said, I wasn't going to be completing any research while I was there. I was strictly going to be interning and working as a lab assistant. So as I was saying earlier, it's the Plant Production Physiology Lab. And so they have a big emphasis on climate change and how we can use plants and agriculture to mitigate these effects. And so one of Agare Sensei's biggest research goals was converting the C3 photosynthesizing rice into CAM photosynthesis. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it involves a lot of genome editing. And so what you see on the right is another aspect of the lab. These are planter boxes where they were trying to see the effects of organic agriculture versus fertilized agriculture to see how they sequester carbon differently and how the soil microbes differ. So here we have the 3 different photosynthesis types that plants do. And this is actually a figure that I borrowed from one of my lab mates in Japan, but don't worry about the technical stuff or the kanji on there. Basically, all you need to know is that CAM plants, which is the end goal of my research lab, they open their stomata at night, allowing them to conserve water. And by doing this, they are more resilient to drought and salination. So plants like cacti can photosynthesizing. And by conferring this trait into rice, it would be able to help a lot of Southeast Asia um, adapt to the changing climates and more dry conditions. In terms of the work I did, it was a lot of work at the greenhouses. So these are the greenhouses on campus. There are tons of them, but I harvested a lot of potatoes, which you can see here. I took measurements of the potatoes, and this again was the organic versus traditional agriculture method, and I helped one of the graduate students with. Alongside that, I collected a lot of soil and measured it for future microbial analysis. And overall, I just helped around a lot. So here's me driving a cart with some planter boxes in the background, some of which are fertilized and some of which are not. And each day was different at the lab. So on the left, you see we were working in the field and we came across some kittens. It was super cute. In the middle, I also got to germinate some rice seedlings. And then on the far right, I helped plant sweet potatoes for future experimental use. And so I did a wide variety of work, I should say, and every day was different. Overall, I ended up completing 540 hours of work. Right? And so it wasn't just that greenhouse work that I did as well. It was translating, because when an email looks like this, you've just got to learn how to translate. And so again, it was necessitated by daily life, and so that extended into my internship as well. And I actually got to help Agarie Sensei, who was a keynote speaker for a conference in Vietnam, turn his slide from Japanese, so it would look something like this, into English. And I did this for his whole presentation. And I did this a few times as well. So overall, the significance of my internship, I believe that I contributed to valuable research going forwards towards mitigating and adapting to climate change. Alongside that, I think I brought an American perspective into this research lab in Japan, which I believe many of the researchers will carry on with them into the future. And finally, I believe that I broadened ties between NAU and Kyushu University, helping to foster a more global world. And then in conclusion, I would just say that what I learned is that networks are your greatest asset. Depending on who you know, you might have the opportunity to work or acquire positions you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And so with that being said, I would also recommend looking into study abroad. It's a great opportunity, and NAU has hundreds of programs you can pick from. And the greatest thing is that although I did have to learn Japanese for my program, a lot of the programs at NAU require no knowledge of the foreign language of the country where you're going to be going. So please look into that if you have any interest at all. And just remember that in your professional career, professionalism is key. And by maintaining a professional attitude in the work that you do and in the relationships that you keep, you will be able to open up more positions for yourself. And yeah, so that's about all I have for you. If you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to reach out at all. And yeah.